It's Tuesday, 3 October, year of our Lord 2023. Today we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. So welcome aboard. We're getting started early. I have a couple of things I want to try to do, and I have some students who have some questions, so I'm assuming there's going to be some folks in the Zoom room. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, please be sure to leave a comment. If you're a student in my course, that is kind of part of the new process is leave a comment somewhere related to this week's class collaboration. So anyway, if you're just watching because you're tuned into my channel, welcome. So I wanted to try something a little different today. And I'm not sure where it needs to be. The drum roll work though. What did the applause? I got a couple of new things going on here just for fun. I've got Mr. Cartoon Head, who is really happy to help out, and he's certainly someone who we will want to call on occasionally whenever I forget to put on my makeup or whatever. And then we have the younger me, Mr. Younger Me, who is definitely ready to rock and roll at all times, no matter what the situation. He is ready to go, and that is Mr. Younger Me. He is great little character made from automated, or what is it, AI, artificial intelligence. He is pretty artificial, and he's lacking in intelligence. And then of course we have the professor, the old professor, who is not here to mess around. No, he is here to tell it like it is. And so we'll be calling on each of those folks at some point, but for now I should probably get over to, let's see, I should probably get on over to the Zoom room, get things set up. I feel like this is my time to play around, a couple of minutes to spare, but I am going to jump into the Zoom room now and let some folks in. So I am going to admit. Welcome everyone. Hey, do me a favor and let me know you can hear me. Pop a note into the yes, you can hear me. Thank you very much, Ava. I appreciate that. I've got a little different setup today. I've only got 3 screens at the moment. I don't have a massive screen. I just have a decent screen, but I don't have enough screen. So over here is where I'm running the Zoom meeting. So if I look that way a lot, I will be playing around a little bit. See, now I'm looking there. So now I'm looking there. Yeah, anyway, glad you can hear me. It's about time to get started. We're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. And it is, you guys are here early, so the Wi-Fi on campus is being weird. Okay, well, so far I think my Wi-Fi is doing good. I'll never forget the very, very, very first time I used my Stream Deck. This very cool little gizmo right here. I'm going to show it to you just for fun. First, I'm going to push this button right here, and that's going to take me to full screen. And when I do that, you get to see all these things. So I will show you here. Let's hit out of full screen, and then I'm going to show you Mr. Talking Head. That's Mr. Talking Head. He's super crazy. That's Mr. Cartoon Head, who was created from artificial intelligence, and he is not real at all. It's just me playing around. So yeah, and then also wanted to check, I know the drum roll worked last week. Yeah, you can hear the drum roll, hopefully. Got some more students who want to join us. And it is now 10 a.m., so it's time for me to get focused. By the way, I've got some cool, let me show you if I can get, no, I can't find her. I have a whole group of little clips of Marsha, my producer, telling me to get focused and get ready for the next steps. Here we go. Okay, we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating this week, but I also want to answer some questions about the Credit Crush assignment. So I'm going to do a little review, post assignment review, a tutorial, if you will, for those of you who have questions. Most of you did a great job on the Credit Crush assignment, so that's all good. Let me see. I'm going to open the chat box. Okay. Thank you guys for posting your comments about when you got here as well. Devin, welcome. Devin, I want to apologize. Actually, we should probably talk the after the Zoom. I hope you can hang around for a few minutes. Let's see. So, anybody have any questions right now before we get started? You're welcome to ask a question. As usual, it's 10:02 a.m. at the moment, at least according to my Apple Watch, and that means we have a couple of minutes. I want to give everybody a chance to get here who is wanting to join us in the Zoom room. And while we're waiting, I'm just going to mention, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, welcome. If you're watching at 2 in the morning on Saturday, that's even just fine. This course, if you're a student at the University of Houston, the Bauer College of Business, if you're a student in this personal finance course, you are required to watch the Zoom meetings. So I'm going to cover some things today that are really hopefully helpful for everyone. But the truth is, most of you who have been keeping up and watching the Zoom meetings, you're way ahead, and so you're going to have to endure a little bit of review that you may not actually need. But hopefully it will be helpful. The Credit Crush assignment is incredibly important, and I wanted to spend a few minutes and just review it. So I'm going to do that. Before we jump into this week's lesson, I'll review this week's lesson. This week's lesson is super easy. It really is super easy. It's not really part of your capstone assignment, but bargaining and negotiating for your financial future is a very important lesson. It's a very important discipline, okay? Bargaining and negotiating is what we're going to talk about. That is the focus of today's lesson. That is the focus of this week's homework for you. And so I don't want to cut short the emphasis and focus on bargaining and negotiating. So please stay tuned. If you get bored with the review of the Credit Crush assignment, you're welcome to fast forward if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. This, by the way, as always, this video that is going live right now on Facebook and YouTube will be in our playlist. So for those of you who are still not quite committed to watching the Zoom meetings, those of you who have been getting emails back and forth from me about this week's class collaboration screenshot that you didn't get right, this is where you want to go. If you're not sure how to get there, I'm sure someone in the GroupMe group will tell you how to do that. I've told you how to do that many times in this meeting and in the course. So do let me know if you need a link. I can post it. Okay, cool. Thanks, Devin. I'll look forward to chatting with you. So anyway, that was it. That was the playlist. That playlist is always where this video will be. It will be posted. In fact, if you look at part 1 of the Credit Crush assignment, actually part 2, this is the Credit Crush assignment. I posted the video from last week's lecture in this link. This is at missionalmoney.com, by the way. If you ever want to follow the podcast or see where I post assignment stuff, I post it mostly at missionalmoney.com. Now, that's not the same as Money Study Group. That's where you have your course content. But this is just easy for me to show and share and let other folks know about what we're doing here. So anyway, Credit Crush assignment, there's a link in the video today for this post, as always. So again, if you go to any of these videos, typically when you open the video, you'll see a link in the video, and that link goes to the the post that I'm showing you here. So okay, let's get started. Still no questions. I'm going to jump into what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump into Right Capital, and I have permission. Marina, I'm going to try not to share anything personal, but obviously your name is there. Let me see if I can get rid of your name there. Well, no, it won't let me do that. But I'm going to jump into your plan. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Credit Crush assignment and just show you. Let me first just tell you the main point, the big idea of the Credit Crush assignment is for you to recognize, to understand, to be completely familiar with the way that the credit card companies will screw you big time. Credit is a product, it's not a privilege, it's something that is sold to you in a myriad of ways. And so, my hope and my objective in this lesson, in the Credit Crush assignment, and we do it for 2 weeks. We do the setup, and then we do the actual assignment, and then we do this post-mortem, this kind of review of the assignment, which we're doing right now. This assignment is designed, though, to help you see how credit card companies operate and how they turn you into a customer for life to benefit them, not you. And so that's what we're going to nail, hopefully, as we do this review. So in the assignment, you're supposed to always, as we move forward into the capstone and preparing for the capstone, that's where you put it all together. Every one of these assignments that relate to your financial plan will be part of your capstone assignment. And so spending and your spending, your budget, how much you are projecting to be spending on living expenses is a huge and important ingredient in your financial plan. And so I ask you to review that and re-review that and confirm that, because when you get to your capstone assignment, if things are all out of whack, that's the first place I look. So that's number one. So you made some big purchases. You bought a house based on what you could afford, based on the research you did for that job that you hope to get after college. That was number one purchase in the Credit Crush assignment, was to purchase a house. You had to do some research. You had to figure out how much you could afford. You also had to do a little research about the interest rate, how many years will your mortgage be, what is the maintenance. So all of that stuff is in that data card, and I'm not going to review that today. I just want to highlight that you made 3 big purchases, and if you missed that memo, you got some deductions in your assignment, and you were asked to show me those screenshots of those data cards: mortgage, a car, like your dream car, and a credit card. You guys did a great job on that, and I am going to review the billion-dollar dilemma for Marina and everyone else who had the same issue. So this is just a review. This is using Billy's plan, but I want to scroll down and just show you. This was kind of the crux of the assignment. This is where we get to select debt strategies to apply to those new pieces of credit that you've applied to your plan. And I know this is all pretend, but the reason we're doing this is because many of you don't actually have debt. Many of you don't actually have a budget or actual living expenses because you're living on campus, or you're living with your parents, or you're just not in the normal adulting mode that you will be when you graduate, get a job, have a house, maybe have a family. And so that's why we're pretending. We're pretending you're 10 years older. We're pretending you got that job that you're hoping to get in your area of focus. We're pretending that you have bought a house, you bought a car, and you have some credit card debt. And so this is what it looks like before, and then this is what it looks like after. And this is just an example screenshot from a sample plan. Yours will be different. So that's the assignment. You're supposed to show me those data cards, your mortgage, your car, your credit card. You're supposed to fill in all those little details in those data cards in your financial plan. That was part of your research, part of your homework. If you didn't spend a few minutes to do that and do a little research, then your assignment didn't look as good as the next guy and you got some deductions. And if you don't understand that, please don't send me an email to walk you through why you got deductions, because you got deductions because you didn't do the assignment, you didn't complete it. Most of you did. A few of you got deductions and wanted me to re-explain what I've already explained in these Zoom meetings. So that's the assignment. Basically, the post that I gave you, it's in Canvas for the most part. This is all the same. There's some helpful tutorials and guides in Money Study Group to help you always get the most points possible in the course. So if you're missing something or if you feel like you missed something, you're welcome to let me know. But if you didn't do the Zoom meeting and you didn't do your homework, please don't send me an email and ask me to explain it all to you, because I've tried to do that here. So let's go now. I'm going to jump into Keynote, which is something I've only begun to do using this new technology with my new deck. So we're going to do a review. This is actually, I guess this is what I'm showing you right now is just a sample. This is not your plan, Marina. I'm going to jump into some screenshots from your plan. But this is where you can actually, I think this is not even Billy's plan, but I'm just showing you how to click around and reminding you that whenever you change the strategy in your plan, you always want to hit the refresh button. So that's what that is. So this is the big question of the day. This is what I want to identify for all of you who got the big billion-dollar deal. So you start here. Hopefully, you go to dashboard, you go to debt, and that's where you will start. And that's what that image is. So next, we're going to look at. I want you to look at your payments. So in this case, this is Marina's plan. Marina, thanks for letting me use your plan. And it turns out your plan is a great example because it's illustrative. Anyway, it helps me illustrate the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment. So just look at these payments. And this is kind of typical. This is what you should see in your plan as well. This is Marina's debt. So she's got the big three that I asked her to put in there, and a couple of others. But you see the amount of interest, the interest rate on this Chase card. That's what I want to focus on. And that really is the answer to Marina's big question. And by the way, for anyone who had this massive, redonkulous amount of savings in your plan, when you hit that refresh button after you selected your debt strategy, like Marina did, and you see what we're about to see, just so you know, if you just tell me about that, I'm not asking you to fix it. In Marina's plan, you did everything right. You did nothing wrong. In fact, if you just look at, and I don't know where you got the 29% for Chase, but I do know this. I do know that currently, today, interest rates are going up, and up. Credit card interest rates are higher than they've ever been. I believe that's a true statement, higher than they've ever been in history. I believe that's a true statement. And so let me just show you something. I'm going to go to my iPad and I'm just going to go, where are we in the stock market today? So the market today is doing really ugly. And the reason for that is this chart right here. It's a painful, I got to go to iPad. Yeah, you see what I see now. So if I go, I just wanted to show you interest rates This chart, that's a chart of a 20-year bond ETF. If you're an investor, you know, most of the time you want to put some money in bonds. This is where I put money for myself. I've got a lot of money in this fund. And look at that chart. The reason that chart is so bad is because if we go here and we look at, let's just look at interest rates for a minute. This is the bond chart. Okay, let me close that out. So I just want you to see this. This is insane. This is insane. And if you vote for Democrats, I hope I don't get canceled for saying this. If you vote for anyone who believes that the government should do everything for everyone and they should, you know, basically borrow money to do it, then that's what we're dealing with in our federal government. And so what we have right here, this chart of interest rates, if you just understand that when interest rates go up, the value of bonds goes down. They're inversely related. And this is why that other chart looks so terrible, because the higher interest rates go, the lower this investment will go. And this is a great proxy, or this is a great TLT. It's an ETF. It's a 20-year bond ETF, exchange traded fund. And this fund is a great example of a proxy, which means it represents the bond market very well. And so the fact that interest rates are going, you can't appreciate this if you're not an investor. If you are an investor, and if you're like me and you have money in the stock market and you have some of your money in bonds, you're having a very, very bad day today, because not only are interest rates going up, which means bond values are going down, but at the same time, the entire market is doing pretty bad. The VIX, that's the volatility measure, is way up. Today is not a good day in the stock market. Nvidia is down 2%. So all that to say that your interest rate, let me get back to my keynote now. Your interest rate of 29% on that Chase card, I don't know where you got that number. I don't know if it's correct, but it wouldn't surprise me if it is. And if it is, then what I'm about to show you is $1 billion, over a $1.2 billion of savings because of changing the strategy here. So, by the way, I wanted you to know, when you're in your plan, if you just take your mouse and move it up and down that wall there, you will get to see your current debt, your proposed. So watch what happens when we go into the next screen. Now, this is basically where I wanted you to go into your plan, click on details. You see details there. And this is where you get to see the details of this particular credit card or this account. So this is Marina's Chase card, 29%, and this is an annual display of cash flows. Starting balance of $15,000, and you look at that at the end of the year with a $3,893 interest on that account and a minimum payment of $3,600. And what happens? What happens to the balance? This is the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment, and I hope you didn't miss this, because this is really, if you think about what the government is doing right now, it should make sense. I mean, if you can think about this in terms of what the government does when they spend your money to buy stuff, to protect people in Ukraine, or give money to Iran, or whatever your government, our government, is doing with your money. They're borrowing it, a lot of it, from China, from other countries who buy our bonds, who invest in our treasuries. And so what's happening right now today is the risk for investing in U.S. treasuries, that's supposed to be a risk-free investment. It always has been considered a risk-free investment. But when interest rates are as high as they are today on U.S. treasuries and U.S. bonds, what's that telling you? It's telling you that The world believes there is risk in investing in U.S. treasuries and U.S. bonds. That's why interest rates go high. So, why would interest be 29% on a Chase credit card? Because somebody believes there's a high risk in that credit account not getting repaid. Now, Marina, this is all pretend, so it's no reflection on you. But if you were an actual 25-year-old person who is, or 30-year-old person who has a job, who has a house, who has a car payment, and now has a credit card with $15,000 balance, your credit card company is very likely to be charging you a relatively high interest rate, not just because you may have questionable credit. Maybe your credit score is pretty good, but the point is that credit is high because in the market, in the economy, the banking system, the credit system is reflecting a level of risk. And so when interest rates are high, there's a higher level of risk. And that's what's happening today in the bond market, which is really unusual and very painful for folks who actually have money in the market. I promise you, it's very painful because what you're seeing is not just stocks and equities going down, but bonds, and they're usually inversely related. So today is another one of those painful days, and the whole reason that it's happening is because of the debt. $32 trillion is how much the U.S. has in debt. $2 trillion of spending deficit for 1 year. Imagine if you made $100,000 a year and you had credit card debts that were half of what you made. So if the GDP of the I don't even know what the GDP is at the moment, but imagine your income being $100,000 and you having credit card debt of say 25,000 or 50,000 that has to be paid, and you have an interest rate like this. This is what it's going to look like. So here we go. And by the way, this is the number. If you look at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see a number that's $1,223,527,000. And that's why Marina asked for my help to review this, because she's like, why am I getting this kind of savings in my plan? That number is ridiculous. And Marina did exactly the right thing. She mentioned that in her assignment. She said, this number is insane, and it is insane. And that's all you're supposed to do, because this could happen in your debt strategy. It could also happen in your ending plan value, because we're making some stuff up and because you have some debt in your plan. And we're going to do the same thing with investing, because I'm going to tell you, let's pretend you have these investments. And if you're as young as you are in your plan, if you're 25 or 30 years old, those investments could grow to a really big number if we are projecting it out to your age 95. So don't worry about the big numbers. I just want you to be aware of them as you build your plan, to recognize them and to let me know that you recognize them. In this case, this says that Marina, if she takes this strategy, if she pays this debt off, this Chase card with 29% interest, $15,000 balance, if she'll take the lowest to highest balance, and it doesn't really matter as long as she has a strategy that's better than paying everything the same, if she applies this strategy, she's going to save $1,223,689,000. And she's going to pay off her debt and be debt free 587 months sooner. And that would make you hopefully think, this is totally not credible. So that's why we're doing this review. And if you didn't have $1 billion, if you had a more reasonable number, that's good. So let's see. And this is just the highest to lowest interest rate Uh-oh, I think I went. Yeah, so let me go back. This is just showing I think that's a monthly, and you can do this in your plan. Yeah, this is showing the annual, just how those balances stack up. And you may recall me telling a story last week of how I figured out in my own life when my wife and I were buried in debt because of my spending, and my wife helped me see that we were never going to get out of debt because, as you saw in this screen and every screen I've been showing you, the amount of the balance goes up. You pay your minimum, and the interest gets applied and the balance goes up because every month they add the interest to the balance. And when you add the interest amount to the balance and then you make a payment that's less than the interest, your ending balance is going to go up, up, up. And every month they're going to charge you interest on the new balance, which means your interest is exponentially going up. And that's why we have this ridiculous amount of savings in Marina's plan, and maybe in your plan too. But don't worry about that. Just be aware of how that works and what the mathematics look like. That's what the math looks like. So this is a more normal before and after, and hopefully that's what you saw. But again, if not, just make sure you mention it. And you'll need to do that in your capstone as well. I wouldn't even try to go back and fix it. Nothing's broken. It's just a crazy number that illustrates what happens when you have a lot of debt and you're not making payments to pay off that debt. And the United States is a good example of that. We have $32 trillion in national debt, and we have an unbelievable amount of bonds and treasuries that we've issued to pay bills. And now the world has said, you know what, maybe there's a better investment out there. Maybe there's something that's even safer than a U.S. Treasury or a U.S. bond. Maybe Bitcoin, maybe gold, maybe burying it under maybe it's commodities, like I could buy oil, and that's going to have more value than a U.S. Treasury. It's just crazy what's happening these days, and it's because of the debt. It's because of the debt and the fact that the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates because inflation is so high, because the government gave away so much money. It is bonkers. And we're seeing that in the markets. And you're going to see that in your personal financial plan. That's why managing debt is such an important part of this course. If you can keep your debt under control and not get caught in this trap, you'll be way, way, way ahead of the game. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my iPad now. Any questions about that before I move on to this week's lesson? This week's lesson is, I'm in the wrong page here, bargaining and negotiating. So let's do bargaining and negotiating. First, let me go turn off Keynote. Okay, there we go. Now, I wonder, do you guys like music? Can you hear? Last week you couldn't hear the music. So that's kind of, it's raining. This is raining. You can hear it now. Awesome. So is it loud to you? Does it sound loud? Or is it... It's actually, it's in the back. It's not loud. It's mostly in the back. Kind of loud. Turn, whoop. Speakers, I'm just going to turn it. Cool, so I'm going to let that play because I like it. And in fact, that's hard. Here's another one that should be about the same volume. This is my normal background music, and I kind of like it. But anyway, enough of that. You can tell I like playing with gadgets. Let's talk about bargaining and negotiating. I've been teaching this class for a while, and when I started teaching this course, Personal Finance, we used college curriculum from Dave Ramsey, and Dave's a character. You watched him or listened to him. He's a character, and at that time, I had to watch all these videos from Dave Ramsey. I had to watch them too because I was teaching the principles that he was teaching. His team put together some very entertaining videos, and when it came to this lesson that we did, we used his curriculum. It was bargaining and negotiating. Dave Ramsey loves bargaining and negotiating. It was like nothing he talked about raised his passion level more than bargaining and negotiating. So it was one of my favorite lessons to watch him teach. And because of the value of that lesson, I carried it on when I transitioned to create my own course using my own material. And so this is really based on Dave Ramsey's lessons about bargaining, negotiating, and everything that I've added since then. So what I want to do as we start to talk about bargaining and negotiating is I want to separate the group. And, usually it used to be in a classroom. And I would say, I want to start this lesson today by separating the room on the right side and the left side. And on the right side, I want to have folks like Dave Ramsey and myself. I would be on the right side of the room, and I would be one of those folks who would say bargaining and negotiating is part of life, and it's not something I'm afraid of. It's something I enjoy. It's something I'm pretty good at, and it's something that absolutely moves the needle in my financial life, without a doubt. So that's the people on the right side of the room. But on the left side of the room, I want to separate the room, and I want the left side of the room to be the folks who say, I really don't love to bargain and negotiate. And if you are that person, then in your mind, you are on the left side of the room with my wife, Connie, who would be, in fact, while we're doing this, I'm just going to see if I can play a little bit of my wife, Connie. I don't know if it's going to, yeah, there we go. So instead of looking at that screen, you can hear the music and you can see me and my wife, Connie. She would be on the left side of the room. Connie she hates to bargain and negotiate. It feels awkward to her. She's not really good at it. It feels like confrontation, and she doesn't like it, and she doesn't really do it. So she's very thankful that she's married to me, because I love to bargain and negotiate everything. That lobster right there, I bet we got to do it. That vacation, I promise you, we got to do it. That's fancy, but I'm really good deal with them. But anyway, bargaining and negotiating, it's not for everyone. And my question is it for you? Is bargaining and negotiating something that you like to do? That's part of the assignment this week, is just to talk about that. That's actually one of the class collaboration screenshots I'm going to ask you to share. Is just tell me your story about bargaining and negotiating. Because here's the deal. And this is a question, I'm setting this up for a question. The question is, if you're on the right side of the room with me and Dave Ramsey and everyone else out there, and go ahead and leave a comment. I haven't seen a comment about it. Well, you did comment about the music, and I appreciate that. But do leave a comment about which side of the room you are. And if you're watching YouTube, do that. Leave a comment and tell me, I love to negotiate, bargain and negotiate everything. Or I rarely bargain and negotiate because I don't like to do it. And I don't feel like I'm good at it. Just let me know in a comment. So, if you're on the right side of the room like me and all those folks who love to negotiate and bargain, or you're on the left side of the room with my wife Connie, with all those folks who really don't love to bargain and negotiate, my question to you is, let's pretend everyone in the entire room makes $100,000 a year and basically buys the same basket of goods. Okay, we all have internet, we all have cars, we all have houses, we all have, maybe we all have a recreational vehicle, but we're all the same. We all basically have and need and want the same things. The only difference is the people on the right side of the room who make $100,000 a year and spend the same, buy the same things. They don't spend the same amount of money, but they buy and invest in the same things. Internet, phones, cars, you name it. Same thing on the left side of the room. The only difference is the folks on the right side of the room. On the right side of the room, we bargain and negotiate everything. The question I have for you is, what's the difference in a 1 year, $100,000 or let's say $100,000 spending plan? If we make $100,000 spending plans and we invest some and save some, spend whatever we spend, it's all the same on both sides. What is the difference, the percentage difference in savings for those of us on the right side of the room? What do you think it is? What percentage would you attribute to the benefit of those who bargain and negotiate everything? You think they're 5% ahead, 10%, 1%, no percent? What do you think? Leave a comment, tell me what you think. What advantage in a percentage, and I know this is a guess, there's no right answer, but what is the percentage of benefit or advantage that a person who makes it they're committed to learning and developing the skill of bargaining and negotiating, and they're not going to prevent them, they're not going to not do it because they're afraid or it's awkward. They would just recognize that it's a necessary skill and discipline in personal finance, and they're going to do it because it's important, because it does make a difference. And if that's so, what difference does it make in a percentage? So leave a comment and tell me what you think. I'm looking for a comment. I think 10 to 15%. Christina said at least 20%. Jason said 10 to 15%. Those are great guesses. Who knows the right answer? I don't know, but I promise you there is a percentage, there is an advantage, there is a benefit to the folks who learn to negotiate and bargain. And so that's something that I want you to think about this week. As you do your homework assignment, it's really simple. I'm going to ask you to tell me, what are you planning on bargaining with over the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 weeks? Just start to think about all of the things you could do to bargain and negotiate. Usually at this point in the course, in the class rather, if we were all together, I'd go to the whiteboard. I should do that, go to the whiteboard. I could do that with my iPad here, but I'm not ready to do that. I'm too busy playing with my new Stream Deck. Sorry. So I'd go to the whiteboard and I'd make a list of all the things. I would just ask all of the things we spend money on, all of the things we spend money on: our phone, our rent, our car, our house, our groceries, our school bill. I just make a list of all the things we spend money on. I would ask the question, which of these should be in the column that would say this is negotiable, and those in the other column where you can't negotiate. We'd make a long list of things that we spend money on, and then I would just ask the class to tell me which ones can be negotiated, which ones can you bargain around. And it's so funny to me. Imagine if we were in that room all together and we were having that conversation. And I was up on the whiteboard, and maybe you volunteered, because I hate that part, where I'm writing on the whiteboard trying to, put down everything everybody's yelling out in the class. So let's pretend you are at the whiteboard writing down everything you could possibly spend money on. What would be on that list? You don't have to answer that, but just imagine that. All of the things you spend money on, it's all up on the board, the list. And then your next job is to start to organize 2 columns. One are the things that can be negotiated, bargained for. And of the other are things you just cannot bargain or negotiate at all. It's so funny to me because if we were having this conversation in a group of 100 people, which is usually about how many folks are in this course right now, if we were having that conversation with 100 people, and let's say that half of us were on the right side of the room and we bargain and negotiate everything, and the folks on the left side of the room, the ones who just don't feel like that's their thing and so they just don't do it, if we had that conversation, what you would find, what you would see, I promise you, would be the same thing I watched over and over and over, semester after semester. Folks on the right side of the room would say, oh yeah, I bargain and negotiate that item all the time, and here's how I do it. And we get into the best conversations about how they negotiate their cell phone bill or their internet bill or their rent or their, the interest on their credit card or whatever it was. We would just have a conversation, and it was always amazing to me to hear the stories from the right side of the room. And then from the left side of the room, people would just be like, you can't negotiate. You can't bargain at the grocery store. You can't bargain at Best Buy. I guess you should bargain for a used car, but it's just the price and the payment. So it's just an interesting experiment, okay? So have that conversation with a friend, with a roommate, with someone in your family. And this week's assignment for bargaining and negotiating, you're not just going to tell me some things that you're going to bargain and negotiate, and think through some of those things. What could you possibly negotiate in your life to move the needle in your financial life? That's one thing. But I also want you to tell me who is a really good negotiator, bargainer, and just tell me a little bit about them. It's a super easy assignment. You really don't have to. The main point of this assignment is to think about bargaining and negotiating in the context of your financial life. I promise you, it is one of the things that can move the needle the most if you decide you're going to become someone who develops the skills to bargain and negotiate. You're going to watch a video from one of my friends, Ramit Sethi. I met him at a conference a while back, and I was just really impressed with this young guy. He's very smart, a lot better looking than me, so you'll enjoy watching his video much more than mine. And he's basically going to have an interview with this other guy, and they're going to basically share the principles of bargaining and negotiating for a job, for a promotion. So it's good content. It's something I hope you will enjoy and learn something from. And you'll watch that video and you'll tell me what you learned. And then you're going to do a little research. You're going to do a little research and find some other things that, you're going to give me 2 YouTube links, do a little research, articles, do a little research about bargaining and negotiating, and find something that means it's helpful, valuable to you, and share that with me in yours. That's really not a difficult assignment at all. And then I want you to list and summarize your top 7 bargaining tips, skills, and ideas. So I want you to think about what are some of the skills, tips, ideas that you would use to bargain and negotiate. I share some of mine with you, but I'm really hoping you'll go do a little research and think about if I were going to go to the next level of bargaining and negotiating, what skills would I need? What things would I need to do? What are the elements of becoming a better bargainer, a better negotiator? That's the assignment. And I hope it's helpful. It's easy. So you don't have to spend a lot of time on this assignment. As always, I hope you will consider turning it in early, because if you turn it in early by Friday at 3 p.m., you get the benefit of 10 extra points. And if you are missing something, which should not happen on this assignment because it's just too easy, but if you're missing something, I'll give you a little feedback, and you'll have an opportunity to correct it and resubmit it before the due date, and you will still get the extra 10 points. I want to remind you, though, those of you who are doing the early assignments, if you did get some pushback or a deduction and some feedback from me, then when you resubmit that assignment, please be sure to put in the comments that you're resubmitting an early assignment, and I'll give you the extra 10 points. But if you don't give me that little note, I will very likely miss it. Now, I'll fix it if you email me, but I am kind of busy these days, and I actually have a real job. I'm a business owner. I'm not a full-time professor. I'm an adjunct. So I'm happy to answer your emails when necessary, but please try to help me with that one little step. This could save a couple emails for me and you both. So just give me a comment if you happen to be a student who turns it in early and you get some feedback with a deduction. Then when you resubmit it on time and you get it right, I'll give you not just full points, but the extra 10 points as well. So that's only if you turn it in early by Friday at 3 p.m. That helps me help you. So it looks like we're a little bit early. I'm going to look to see if we have any questions. I don't see any questions in the chat. I know I have a couple of students, at least one, who I need to visit with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the broadcast. I'm going to look for questions. I'm going to remind you as I jump over here to the playlist. When I finish with the students I'm going to visit with next, I will post this video in our playlist, and that's where you will go to grab this video and other videos. By the way, before I let you go, I've got a lot of emails this week because we have this new thing. This new thing. Remember the new thing? Remember, this is a clue. I'm looking at the comments. Did you, Christina? You're right there, sister. Is this the reminder you're giving me, Christina? Looking for a little affirmation, a little confirmation that I'm about to give you an extra 10 points because I mentioned. Oh, you mentioned it earlier, Ava. Okay, hold on. If Ava mentioned it, I'm gonna have to see. I missed some stuff. Okay. Oh, Ava, 10:02 a.m. and I didn't even see it. So, Christina, I'm very sorry. I appreciate your observance, paying attention, and being ready to remind me. But Ava gets the 10 points. Christina, I'll give you 5 points for being there, ready. Now, listen, I say I'll give you 10 points and 5 points. I really will do that. But I don't do that until you tell me, hey, I need some points. So if you've got all the points you need and you don't need them, then you just get to have some fun with me on this. But if you need the points, I'm happy to give you the points. But it'll be your responsibility to remind me where you need them. And I'm happy to give them to you. So, okay. Well, Christina, yeah, she didn't get the full 10, but she's going to get some. Thank you very much, both of you. So this is the fun part that we added just recently. So the fun part is each week in the Zoom meeting, I tell you an additional class collaboration thing that I want you to add to this week's assignment. It's like a secret. It's 10:49 a.m. and I am now telling you what I want you to comment on and have a little conversation and share either in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, or in Money Study Group. This is not for GroupMe. GroupMe is your private space. So here is this week's class collaboration. I'm having trouble understanding why some students don't recognize that the Zoom meeting is required. I get that it's an asynchronous course. I'm curious, what do you think? What do you think about Zoom meetings being required? So I'll tell you what I think. I want to know what you think. When I went to college, I took a 3-hour class. This is a 3-hour class. I had to be in class for 3 hours. And then there was like 6 hours of homework in addition to that for any 3-hour class. And obviously, if it was year 1, 2, 3, if it was an O1 class, 100 series, 200 series. If I was a senior, those classes took a lot more homework. But nonetheless, if a 3-hour class, it required being in the classroom. And I'm here every week in a Zoom meeting, and I'm just puzzled and somewhat befuddled by those handful of students who don't even bother with the Zoom meetings. And that's why I'm doing this, and I'm giving a 10-point deduction for students who don't get this one weekly class collaboration, because it's my way of saying, hey, this is required. You have to watch it. You can watch it at double speed on YouTube. Again, here's our playlist. But you can't just blow it off and then send me an email and ask me to explain everything. It's the assignment. And that's this week's class collaboration. You can tell I'm a wee little bit frustrated because I don't get it. Do you get it? How do you see it? Zoom meetings in an asynchronous course. I'm telling you, in this course, the Zoom meetings are required. You can watch them at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday at double speed on YouTube, but you have to watch them because this is where and I hate that today we spent a lot of time reviewing something that many of you really probably didn't need, and a few did. And that happens occasionally, and I'm sorry for that, but it is what it is, and I'll try to do better. But I need your help, especially a handful of students who seem to recur each semester. And that's why we added this element that I hope is fun, and I hope it's helpful, where I ask you to remind me, what is this week's class collaboration? And this week's class collaboration is simply a conversation, a comment, your perspective about Zoom meetings being required in an asynchronous course. Is it confusing? Do you agree that it's okay to make them required? Is it totally off the reservation and unacceptable that a professor could make them required? What do you think? Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I will promise to try to not ever do another ever again. That is going to do it for this week. So I'm going to jump on over, and I think the